Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh baby, oh buddy, oh brother. Hello, this is Matt O'Leary, and this is Albums That Made Me, a series where I cover 10 albums from each decade, going back to the 60s, of albums that were formative in my life and building my taste and really represent the whole spectrum of music that I listen to. And this is number 3 of the 2010s. I've covered 2 more, which are in this video playlist. You can check those out as well. But this one is special. I mean, this is really the bedrock of a particular niche of my taste as far as modern rock goes. I don't need to drag this on. You know what it is. It's Act 4 by the Deer Hunter. This is the 6th album of Casey Crescenzo's solo career, who became the Deer Hunter. Of course, the 4th one in the Act series. I've got the vinyl here. I really love the artistic switch on these album covers that came with Act 4 after the long wait after Act 3. I think this is just such a stunning visual here, and the whole package really is excellent. It's got this dark green, kind of slimy, swamp colored vinyl, which is pretty awesome. There are plenty of pressings of this, but I especially like this color. Really can't see it too well if I get it in that ring light. Yeah. Oof, it's so good. The acts are concept records set at the dawn of the 20th century. The whole story revolves around the birth, life, and abrupt death of a boy known only as the Deer Hunter. The Deer Hunter combines this symphonic prog rock sound with a modern indie alternative sort of sound that just spoke to my millennial heart in a really special way. All with this amazing symphonic orchestral backing, strings and brass and all these instruments that are just situated perfectly among the traditional rock instrumentation: guitar, drums, bass. In the broader musical context, I think that's the best way to summarize what this is, although it's very singular. It's very much its own thing. But if you're familiar with the prog pantheon going back to the classics of the 60s and 70s, then this has a distinctly modern American flavor to it. The vocals in particular are thick with the post-hardcore stylings of the early 2000s, the pop punk, the hardcore, the emo sounds of that time. Casey always shoots for the moon and goes for those high notes in his full chest voice. He rarely uses the falsetto, which is a feature of that pop punk and post-hardcore sound. And everything across the board, but especially Casey's voice, just got a huge upgrade on Act 4. Really, everything before Migrant came out, there are moments that are a little bit grating or just a touch off pitch vocally, just a touch, but this one is just on a different level. But even the production, the mixing, the writing, the overall presentation was just lifted with this one. Part of that is probably just the time period between Act 3 in 2009 and this one in 2015, in between which he wanted a little palette cleanser. He was still working on big stuff, the color spectrum, this huge conceptual undertaking, but a little more vague of a concept, a little less particular and spread out across multiple smaller chunks of EPs rather than carrying the weight of the concept across full-length records. And then he also did Migrant, which was his step away entirely from concept records. And I think Migrant is where his production chops really started to shine. I think that's a very important transitional moment for them and Casey, and a great record too, where the approach was much lighter and song by song, and just a more traditional, straightforward modern rock album. I heard the first 3 acts back in high school, but I didn't really connect with them at the time. Something about it just wasn't quite clicking until Act 4. This one made me go back with an open mind and open heart towards those other records, and I think when one album can do that, open yourself to something you were previously closed to, that's pretty special. It really was more valuable than just the record alone. I remember it so well, like where I was when I heard Night on the Town, the first single from the album. I was in my kitchen at an apartment back in college, and only music can do that, just so vividly bring you back to a memory, even if it's super mundane. And it's time I get into the music on this thing. There is a ton of variety, first off, across the track listing, and I think it's something I've learned about myself as a listener, that I really like Whiplash. The last half of the album is the perfect example of that. You know, you got King of Swords, If All Goes Well, The Line, Wait, Ouroboros, you know, such different feelings. The setting of the early 20th century really flavors the whole album. You know, you got the colors and the culture and the architecture, the music. There's vaudeville laced throughout. Really, there's no bad moment. There's no down period on this record for me, but that stretch from At the End of the Earth to The Squeaky Wheel, that is one of my favorite stretches on an album ever. At the End of the Earth with this intro that sounds underwater, you know, a submarine radar breaking through the deep blue. And this very austere vocal delivery that slowly comes to life as the music shifts from this submerged, thin sound to this wide open, lush 6/8 jam. Is There Anybody Here has a similar back and forth with the intro's very weepy piano and string arrangement, moving into this Pink Floyd-esque, slow, moody thing. There's just something about the choral arrangements, the guitar tones, the orchestra that just feels so warm and rich and enveloping to me. And that's really the best way I can describe my affinity for this record. It's just so comforting. It's so enveloping, like a return home from a long voyage. It has some of the classical European instrumental staples of prog music from that, you know, heritage, but it also grew up at the same time and in the same milieu that I did. My formative years of music listening, the early aughts, you know, high school, middle school, that time period, the sheen of that music is in the DNA here. I got to keep this like broad because if I go in depth on every track, which I could, we'd be here for like 40 minutes. So I have more to say about the album, but I will point you to a ranking I did, a collaboration with Notes Reviews on the whole Deer Hunter discography before Antimai came out, like it was 4 years ago. So it's a little outdated, but still pretty good analysis of all the albums. I always say with this band and with Coheed and Cambria that, you know, I'm really the perfect example of someone who can not care too much and not really have the inclination to explore all the intricacies of the concept, all of the lore and all of the world and all the details of every album and song, but musically still enjoy the band to the utmost. I wouldn't hesitate to put either of those bands in my top 10, maybe even top 5 of all time. And I know very little about their fictional worlds. You know I catch little shades here and there. I have a general idea of the main themes, but it's really the music that does it for me. And to hear him come back last year with Antimai, so strong, new concept, new world, new sound, and just knock it out of the park. You know, it just wraps me up in his music all over again, as if I ever left. And that's going to do it for Act 4. You know, this is one of my top 10 of the 2010s, but also one of my favorite albums of all time. Of course, let me know what you think of this album in the comments below. Check out some of the other videos in this series and past Deer Hunter related videos. And as always, thank you so much for watching.